my head cut off. Is that better? Hello creeps! Anna here, and today I wanted to talk about my favorite horror films of 2020. Now, disclaimer, I have not seen every horror film that came out this year. There are a lot of them, and I only watched probably 10, 12 of them, and there are a lot more that I haven't seen. So these are just my favorite that I have seen, and also if you have a different feel for these movies, if you hate them, that's totally okay. We're all different. We all like different things. And I think that by looking at my list, you'll be able to see what movies I really, really love, like what type of films I really enjoy. So let's just get into it. These are my top 5 favorite films that I loved in 2020. So let me grab my phone because they're all written on there. And then also, I'm going to be saving my 2 favorite for last, but I really did enjoy all of these. So the first one I want to talk about is Underwater. This movie, well, let me preface this by just saying that if you put a film underwater, 9 times out of 10 I'm gonna like it. I definitely have a bias towards these films. I think they're really fun and just creepy and entertaining, and I love anything that's either deep sea or outer space. So I automatically was intrigued by this movie, but I did not think I was going to like it as much as I did, and I really enjoyed it. It brought something new, I felt like, to the underwater monster type of films, and I just thought this movie was so fun. It was funny, it was enjoyable, and also, let me go on a feminist rant for a minute here, the female character was just so badass, and I love that there was no, like, damsel in distress that the man had to save. Like, she is the one that dragged his ass across the bottom of the ocean. I just love that, like, super strong female character, and I think that this movie definitely had that in it. It kind of had like an alien feel to it, if I'm honest, that, strong lead female character that kind of saves the day. So I really did enjoy this one. I thought that it was creepy, it was fun, it was terrifying if you put yourself in that scenario. I have no idea what animal that was. You guys okay? Okay. Anywho, I just think that underwater and outer space movies are particularly creepy because you're just stuck. There's no, oh, I just leave. You know what I mean? Like, you really all have to work together to figure out how you're going to get out of there. And usually there are only 1 or 2 or a handful of people that do survive. So super, super terrifying, really fun. I really, really enjoyed this one. It was such a fun monster film. The next one that I want to talk about is The Lodge. You guys know that I made an entire video about this in the beginning of the year. This movie, let me be clear, came out in 2019 in some countries, but it wasn't released in the US until 2020, so that's why it's included in this list. This film, I made an entire video about how much I enjoyed it, and somebody actually left a comment saying that they didn't enjoy it because it was overhyped, and for me it was opposite. I hadn't heard anything about it, and then I watched it and loved it. So it's really interesting how other people's perspectives can, affect your interpretation of a film. But this one I really, really loved. I thought it was creative and fun and unique, and there was a lot to analyze there, a lot of metaphor, and the main thing, well, I guess I should tell you what it's about. This is about a woman who goes to a lodge, a cabin, with her, I can't remember if it's her husband or her boyfriend's kids that have had their mother die unexpectedly. So she goes to try to bond with them. But she has a pretty dark past of being raised in a cult, and weird things keep happening, so she doesn't really know if she's kind of like losing it or what's going on, and it's just a very fun, creepy movie. The reason why I loved it so much is because there's not one protagonist and one antagonist. Every individual character is both the protagonist and the antagonist. Like, you have sympathy and hate every single character in this film, and I think that movies like that are really entertaining because it's true, we all have good qualities and we all have bad qualities and nobody's perfect. I think it's more of a realistic representation of humanity as opposed to just like, this person's inherently good and this person's inherently evil. I don't think that there are too many just black and white cases like that. So I really, really enjoyed this film solely because of that. The whole time you're just like, wait, so you're a good guy and a bad guy? I like you and I hate you? It's very confusing for the viewer. And not only that, but here's another reason why I like the film as well, is you go into it kind of knowing, like in the beginning they tell you this is exactly what's going to happen if you pay close enough attention, and then when you get through the film you're like, well, wait, is that true still or is it not true? And then at the end you're like, wait, I knew what was going to happen the whole time, but I was still this stressed about it. I've just never seen a movie do that so well. So if you guys want to watch my full spiel on this movie to see my deeper analysis of it, you can definitely check that out. But if not, that is definitely on the list. Moving on, I want to talk about Host. So this movie was actually filmed in quarantine. It's about 6 friends who get on a Zoom call. They hire an individual to come and do a seance with them through Zoom. And things go horribly awry. And they have contacted a demon which goes and fucks them all up. This movie I thought was really fun. It's not an original idea. There are definitely other movies that are over the computer, over a type of Zoom, FaceTime sort of thing before, but this one felt different. One, the character interaction, it felt like you were on a Zoom call with 6 friends. Like, it was so easy to just sit back and watch and enjoy them and see them laughing, and like it really felt like you were just kind of like eavesdropping on a friend's Zoom call. And not only that, but for me, because you know I like to overanalyze and get too analytical and probably pick things apart in the movie and probably find things in the movie that weren't intended, but for me, I saw it as a metaphor for like, we're all dealing with the same demon right now, right? Like, we're all isolated, we're all dealing with the same core thing, but it's affecting all of us so differently. And so although it is the same experiences, everyone's experiencing them differently. Does that make sense? So I saw it as just kind of like a metaphor. I also read a comment that said like, this movie is the zeitgeist of 2020, which I thought was just a great comment in itself. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was fun. I thought it showcased the director's ability to be able to make, oh, okay, I guess my cat likes me today. Hi. I thought it was a good representation of the director's ability to kind of understand that we're in quarantine and still find a way to film a movie. Just pretty awesome, as well as the actors too, because that's got to be limiting just kind of like, you know, in front of a screen. But truly, I really enjoyed this film. So that was another one that I just had to talk about because I actually just recently watched this one. Everyone talked about how much they loved it, and I was like, it's a call over Zoom, like it's gonna be the same as the other movies. It's not the same. There's a lot of fun stuff there. Next up, I want to talk about Books of Blood. I love this one. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of the movies that Rotten Tomatoes rates high, I hate, and a lot of horror movies that Rotten Tomatoes rates low, I love. So I feel like we're always kind of headbutting. Books of Blood had horrible reviews, both from Rotten Tomatoes as well as the audience review. I'm not sure why, but I loved this film. No, I'm not sure why people rated it low, but I know why I love this film. So it's 3 different stories. You have a story about a girl kind of running away from her past and physically running away. Something's following her, but you don't really know if it's like her internal demons or some exterior force. Then you have 2 people that are on a quest to find this book of blood, and then you also have and then also with her, she runs into like a family running an inn. They're overtly nice, like creepily nice, and you're like, something odd's going on here. And then the 3rd story, you have a man who claims that he can connect people with their loved ones and like relay messages of people's dead loved ones. Jeez. So you have 3 different stories, but they all interconnect and come together in a way. I really love this. I was blown out of the water. Hulu's hasn't in the past been a channel that I go to for my horror, and they've really stepped their game up recently, and I just loved Books of Blood. I thought it was fantastic. The practical effects that they used, the acting, the way that everything kind of circles around and comes back together. I've never read Books of Blood. If you didn't know, this is an adaptation of Clive Barker's Books of Blood, but I don't know how much was taken from it and, you know, at what liberty they used his stories. I really don't know. So that could absolutely be a reason why it got low ratings. If somebody had read Books of Blood and then saw the movie and it was nothing like the movie, I really have no idea. But just as a standalone movie, I really, really liked this one. I thought that it was so entertaining. I love the way that everything comes together and kind of ties up. The ending is fantastic. It's creepy, it's weird, it's fun. Just a perfect film for October, this October, you know. I wasn't expecting anything to be like that original and that cool, but it was so fun. So, Morella, stop eating stuff. What are you doing? No, you cannot eat that. You will die. She's so evil. I don't know how to make her less evil. And then the last movie that I want to talk about is Relic. So I just watched this one actually this week, and I was blown away. The story's about a mother and a daughter who go to stay at her grandma's house. Because the grandma has gone missing. So the grandma's missing, they stay in the house, they're looking for her, they can't find her, and suddenly she just reappears a few days later, but something doesn't quite seem right. So the whole movie, you're kind of stuck in this limbo of like, you know, maybe the grandma's just suffering from like Alzheimer's, dementia type of thing, or maybe something dark is in the house. And so you're kind of in this limbo trying to figure out what exactly it is, because although the mother and daughter are experiencing things, they're not really experiencing things in the way that the grandmother is. So it really does leave things open for interpretation. Like you don't really know fully what's going on. You find out that the house was built on the grandmother's grandfather's land. So it's very much so a metaphor of just like being built on top of those that came before us. It's kind of like this whole circle of life type film, and how like at the very end, I really don't want to ruin it for you, because it is so, the ending is so dark and twisted and disturbing and weird and heart-rendering and beautiful. Like it really is just an intense film. But I don't think me saying this will ruin it. But at the ending, it's just like very much so an acceptance of somebody that you've idolized your whole life becoming, you know, ill and having to take care of them and being weak, and then like this realization that this is going to happen to all of us. And you know what I mean? It's such an intense film. I will say that I watched it with my husband, and at the end this was my face at the end. And then at the end, he just turned to me and said, I don't get it. So I will say that I think this movie just kind of hits a little differently if you have been the sole provider for a loved one who has been terminally ill. Like this movie just hit me hard because of that. So if you're someone who maybe hasn't experienced it, I don't think that the concept will be lost on you at all. But I think that maybe you'll feel it in a different way. Like this really, like, this hit me really hard. So I just thought that it was such a wonderful, beautiful, weird, strange, heartbreaking film, like truly unique and odd, and you have to grab your shovel and dig below the surface for this one. This is not just like a sit back and, oh, the grandma invited a demon in. It's nothing like that. And that's kind of what the reviews were, the negative reviews were like, I don't get it. And it's like, well, okay, well, maybe dig a little bit. So definitely not one that's surface level at all. You definitely do have to do a little bit of interpreting for yourself or for the movie, but I think it's pretty clear what the concept is. But for me, it just hit like really close to home and was just such a weird manifestation of different feelings. And I don't know, I really can't explain it, but I will say that like I don't know that if I recommended this movie to everyone that everyone would love it. I don't know. For me, it was just such a beautiful, weird circle of life type story. But if you do give this movie a chance, just know that it's not a surface level and everything kind of has like an alternate meaning to it. But it's so good. I really enjoyed this. This was my favorite film of 2020, truly. I mean, the end scene is very creepy and weird and fun and sad. Oh, it's just everything. It's everything rolled into one, but it's very much so encased in like a level of horror that I think most people would enjoy, even if you're just watching it for the horror aspects. Like the ending is it's worth it for sure. You know how I always say that even if you watch a film and you don't quite get it, or you don't quite like it, or it's like some B film that you're not quite into, but there's that one scene that you're like, thank God I watched this movie because that scene was awesome. I feel like that's what the ending will be to most people, because it's just so unique and strange. So very creepy, very weird. I highly recommend this one. I mean, truly. I mean, I recommend all of these. I really liked all of these. Yeah, so those were my favorite films of 2020. Now I'm curious, what was your favorite horror film that you guys watched in 2020? Please leave it down below. And if you guys have seen The Relic, what did you think of it? I'm really curious. That's it. That's it for today. If you guys want to subscribe to my new channel, I haven't posted anything yet, but I'm planning on just posting an easy reading sort of video on that channel. I eventually will be doing the story of how my wedding was ruined on that channel. I don't quite know when, probably next month sometime. So if you're interested in things like that, you can subscribe there. If not, I will see you here on next Tuesday. I'm trying to upload Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I will see you next Tuesday with another horror video. Bye guys.